North Korea fires two ballistic missiles, a senior U.S. official says. Pentagon, Washington, CNN. North Korea launched the two ballistic missiles on Thursday, a senior U.S. official told CNN, citing an intelligence assessment. The second such launch in less than a week. It is not known yet whether the missiles were short, medium, or long range, such as an intercontinental ballistic missile called ICBM. The US military and the intelligence community is still analyzing data from the test launch to determine what kinds of missile was fired and how far it went. The US tracks all North Korean weapons tested through radar and satellites, which are able to detect heat signatures of the missile launch almost immediately. South Korea's Joint Chief of Staff told reporters North Korea had launched unidentified projectile projectiles into the sea between the Korean peninsula and Japan, adding it had stepped up surveillance and was maintaining readiness in close cooperation with the US. Speaking later Thursday, Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga denounced the launch as a threat to the peace and security of Japan and contrary to United Nations resolutions. A spokesman for the Prime Minister's office said the missiles were fired at 7:04 a.m. and 7:23 a.m. local time from North Korea's east coast, traveling around 430 kilometers, 265 miles eastward before entering the sea. Japan lodged its serious protest and strongly condemns, Suga said, urging the public to be fully ready for the contingency situation. It is necessary to enhance monitoring and surveillance more than before, he added. I have held an emergency National Security Council meeting. We will work closely together with related nations, including the United States and South Korea, and we are determined to protect the people's lives and peaceful livelihood. Earlier, the Japan's defense ministry said the projectiles were believed to have landed outside Japanese territory and its exclusive economic zone. Japan's Coast Guard has warned ships to be on the lookout for falling debris. The second test in less than a week. The last weekend, North Korea carried out its first weapons test since U.S. President Joe Biden took place, according to three U.S. officials, launching two projectiles in a move senior administration officials downplayed as falling on the low end of the spectrum of provocations. Officials and experts had anticipated that North Korea leader Kim Jong-un would attempt to send a message to the Biden administration about the country's importance in the region. In that test, one U.S. official told CNN that North Korea had launched short-range projectiles, possibly artillery or cruise missiles, not ballistic missiles. A key distinct which underscored the Biden administration's view it was not a serious breach or will not prevent the U.S. from pursuing diplomacy with Pyongyang. But in a statement to the Senate Armed Forces Committee on March 16, U.S. Air Force General Glenn Hamburg warned the isolated regime could go further. Pyongyang has indicated that it is no longer bound by the unilateral unilateral lateral nuclear and ICBM testing moratorium announced in 2018, suggesting that Kim Jong-un may begin flight tests on improved ICBM design in the near future, he said. When we practice attacking them, they practice nuking us. The ballistic missile launch is a violation of U.S. Secretary Council resolutions, and that's going to make it a little harder for the Biden people, said Jeffrey Lewis, a professor at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies, which specializes in open source intelligence. Lewis, who previously described the weekend's short-range launches as a 2 out of 10, told CNN on Wednesday evening U.S. time that the new ballistic launches would be more than a 2. But the launch wasn't entirely unexpected, coming days after the U.S. Secretary of State and Defense Secretary visited the region that following a joint U.S.-South Korea military exercise. When we practice attacking them, they practice nuking us. That is just the yin and the yang of the thing, said Lewis. Though it remains unclear exactly what kinds of ballistic missile was launched, Lewis said it seemed unlikely to be the more powerful long-range missile. For really long-range missiles, they tended to be picked up when they went up, and they stay aloft for 10 to 20 minutes. With the ICMBs, we heard about the launch before they came down, and that was a good giveaway, he said. This time, they went up and they came down. CNN's Jake Kwon in Seoul and Junko Ogura and Chie Kobayashi in Tokyo contributed reporting.